Hello. Again, my name is Ted Tenza. I'm a Senior Development Manager for Atlassian. As GC mentioned, I created Bootcamp. I also am the main coordinator for it. And so what I'd like to talk to you today about is just how we go about doing that. Could I get a quick show of hands? How many people here don't have any sort of Bootcamp or informal onboarding system and kind of want to understand sort of why you should even do it? Okay, and does everybody else sort of already have one? Can I show of hands of people that sort of have one? Okay, good. I don't have to modify my agenda. So I'm going to talk about why create Bootcamp, why go through the process, how it can help you. Then I'll go into a little bit about our Bootcamp, the technical details and the practical details of how we run our Bootcamp. And then finally, I'll talk about just some tips and tricks of stuff I've learned over running it over the last 2 years or so. So why bother even having a bootcamp? Well, the saying goes, you can never get a second chance at a first impression. If you bring in new employees and you just make them sink or swim, there's all kinds of cliches that we can use to explain it, but the real essence behind it is you want to have your employees come on and be as productive as quickly as possible. And if you formalize and get the onboarding system down to a science, then the people coming on, the new hires coming on, will be more productive quicker. They'll also be happier, and you won't have to have them unlearn bad habits later on if they've just sort of are self-taught. This is a quote from Tim Moore, one of our team leads, who had people coming onto his team both pre and post boot camp, and he says that the change has been phenomenal. The people, when they finish the boot camp and join the team, know a lot more, are a lot more productive, a lot faster. So now I want to talk about sort of our bootcamp and some of the practical details for it. First of all, what bootcamp is not. So we're not talking about handing somebody an HR manual and asking them to read it. I'm not talking about the paperwork that you have to do when you're bringing somebody on. And most importantly, bootcamp is not a one-size-fits-all kind of solution. You have to tailor it to the very specific role that you're trying to bring on. So we'll talk about what the Atlassian Bootcamp is. First of all, it's classes. So we have a series of classes that we have the new hires go through, and they're broken up into a couple different types of classes. So we have technical classes, such as Intro to Git, Intro to OSGI, making sure that they have the requisite technical skills, not just for the ones that we've hired them for, but also for all of the tooling that we use in order to bring the devs up to speed. There are also practical classes, so things like Dev Cycle for Bamboo, Dev Cycle for Jira, classes that teach them how we work, and so that they can become productive. They know who to talk to when they have to commit code to, say, Jira or Bamboo, and they're not necessarily on that team. And so it helps them sort of understand the processes that we work. Finally, we have what we call cultural classes. So those are the sort of information classes. So, a history of Atlassian, who we are, where we came from, what our values are. Those kinds of classes, the things that people normally take 6 months to learn in hallway conversations, we condense it down and we give it to them sort of right at the beginning. The second thing we do is we have them code. So we have practical objectives that they are going to work on, and most importantly, it's production code. So we don't have a test system that they work on that never goes anywhere. We actually have them code very specific objectives that then gets pushed into production so that they're working on real stuff from day one. This is basically the objectives on this side are what we give those are the actual objectives that we give for our Java developers when they come on. We have different objectives for different roles, but as you can see, we have them come in, create a tracking page, set up their instances, start fixing some production bugs. The other side that's a typical week of classes. So we have them coming in and doing an overview, the essentials of Atlassian engineering. We introduce them to our platform. So you can see that we have those kind of classes. The classes are all taught by other devs. So it's not any sort of external people coming in. It's not HR teaching it. It's other devs teaching devs our process. So what are the things I've learned on doing this, or maybe some advice if you're setting up one of your own? First of all, if you're setting one up, I would start with a small pilot. Don't try to set up a big 6-week, 15-course, 87 objective thing right off the bat. Start small, find out what works, continue to iterate on it, And that way it can also grow within your organization, so you don't have to worry so much about getting approvals and everything, because it's very small and it can grow, and people can see the value of it quicker. When you have the objectives, make sure they're focused so that people can get through it. A lot of times it's self-directed, and so you don't want the people, your new hires, floundering with it, so you want to make it focused. You want to make them targeted, so Java devs should be working on Java objectives, JavaScript devs working on Java, QA should be doing QA objectives. And finally, make it relevant. Nobody wants to come in and start working on a piece of code that nobody cares about. And also, you want each objective to solve some sort of problem. So are you trying to teach them about the history of the company? Are you trying to teach them about your particular workflow? So make sure the objectives are relevant to what you're trying to accomplish within the bootcamp. We also do a lot of cross-team and cross-product. So when our devs come in and they're a dev and they're working on Jira, before they would come in and they would just work on Jira. And if there was ever a problem with Bamboo or Confluence, they really didn't understand it. Now we have them work across all of that. We have them work across the common modules. And so they understand they can solve their own problems a lot quicker rather than having to go to the other team and continually ask for help. We also go across sort of organizational things. So we have classes like Think Like a QA, Think Like a Tech Writer, so that the devs understand what the other people go through within our organization. Co-location, I think, is really important. We have a bullpen type area where all of the new hires sit together so they can work with each other. They don't feel as out on an island, and they can help each other, and that's really important. Get feedback. I think this is really important. Get feedback and embrace change. At Atlassian, we have a value, be the change you seek. And so what we do is we require our boot campers to tell us how can we improve Atlassian, either a product, how do we improve the process. Since most of them are familiar with bootcamp, the suggestions they give us usually end up dealing with bootcamp. So every couple of weeks I have yet another newbie telling me how to do my job, but that's okay, it's really good. We get some good feedback from it, and the bootcamp changes as we go. Make sure that you emphasize learning over completion. You're not trying to get them to just go through and click a couple boxes and check it and get done with it. At no point for the rest of the time they're with the company will they have this much time to really understand the code. You're normally going to be under shipping deadlines, you're going to have all sorts of pressure, you're going to be preparing summit talks, whatever it is, but you're not going to have the time to really get down and understand the code. So emphasize for the people coming on board that this is their time to learn, and don't rush them through the process. I think it's important that the people who are involved in the bootcamp want to be there. So nothing can spoil a new hire's attitude if you've got somebody who's very cynical, doesn't think it's worth the value of it. So you want to get people who are enthusiastic, who can really help them learn what they're trying to do. This one I think is probably one of the ones that's catches me even now, is that you can't underestimate the time and effort it takes to do this if you want to do it right. Our bootcamp is self-directed. The objectives are self-directed, so we don't have it to say, you know, you have to be done in 4 weeks or you have to be done in 6 weeks and you do this one and this one. But even with that, even with each individual developer responsible for his own or her own tasks and getting it done, it still takes quite a bit of effort to set up the classes, to make sure the instructors are there, to give feedback to those people, to give feedback to the devs, to make sure that they've got that constant feedback cycle so they're not left out on an island. Remember, they're new. You want to continue to let them know if they're doing well or what they need to improve. So it takes quite a bit of effort. So don't sit there and skim on it and just have somebody who does it 10 minutes a week, because it won't work. And finally, I would say track the results. If the people coming in and going through your onboarding process aren't doing better than the people who were coming on before, change your onboarding process, do something different. Make sure that you're tracking it. Track the presentations. Look to make sure that the classes are still relevant, that the courses are still relevant. Make sure that you're tracking to ensure that the objectives are still relevant and they haven't gotten outdated. And that's, I think, really important. Otherwise, it's going to get obsolete pretty quick and you're not going to get the results you want. And if you're not getting the results you want, there's no point in actually doing it. And so that's my talk. If you guys want to start a boot camp or any practical questions about how we run those or anything, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much.